welcome to episode 8 of season 2 of Anime Kiwi. I'm Mike.
I'm Katara.
And this is the last episode of this season. How do you...
Hooray!
I see you're happy about that. I was going to ask how you feel, but I guess that betrays your intentions.
As I want to do.
So what do you think these last four? How do you feel about the end of the series?
I think, like I mentioned last episode, that I had a sneaking suspicion that the show wouldn't really make good on, its plots and its themes or whatever, and I guess I felt like I was kind of right by the end of it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think it's interesting that a series... I mean, if you've watched this whole thing, you know what's going to happen. But
yeah,
I think it's interesting for a series to just kind of stop and have the last 2 or so episodes be barely about the main characters and have those characters have accomplished basically nothing at the end. But
yeah, just not a traditional dramatic arc, I suppose, which is fine and everything, because I don't necessarily think that people need to stick to those kind of established structures, but I just don't think there was anything satisfying about this show. It kind of felt like it was spinning its wheels for the last 4 episodes.
I mean, I think it's also... I think this set of episodes made it really evident that it's adapting something that's not finished. I did find out that this is an every other week series, and this season covered the first 40 or so chapters.
How many years of comics was that?
About 10. Or no, that's not 10. It's been going 10 years. So that's, at this point, that's like a third of it.
Okay.
Which is why a third season hasn't surfaced yet, probably. Although I heard these 2 series didn't do that great, or at least this first season didn't do that great.
Yeah, I guess now that the first season is over and I've gone through all of that, I can pretty confidently say that I'm not really a fan of this show.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm probably gonna... I already got the second season ready to watch, so I'll get to that on my own time. But I liked it.
I'm kind of in the mood for something real, smart and dark and serious and real and raw.
Diesel?
Diesel?
You said raw. Do you want something that's diesel? Do you want something that's fire?
No. I don't know what those words mean in this context.
It's okay. We know you're not in with the kids' lingo now. You're an old man. Can't all be hip like me.
Thank fucking God. If you're hip, I don't want to be hip.
I'm very hip.
Yeah, broken hip, probably.
I know what the kids like.
What do they like, Mike?
They like the new fast thing that everyone's crazy about.
And what exactly is that?
Things that are raw and diesel and lit.
I don't think you know. I think you're lying.
Anyways, episode 22 of Chihayafuru. There's not a lot to summarize in these episodes, I feel.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this first episode is kind of setting up the last 2 episodes, I guess. Because we see Chihaya in our second round. She won the first one, and then Arata also won the first one, I think. But I don't think that comes into play in this one. We see her play the former queen, who is Yumi Yamamoto, who is, at this point, the plainest anime character I've ever seen. She lost the title to the current queen at the last queen match. And as the match goes on, this is basically the first character in the show that I legitimately hate, because she is a rules lawyer, and they are the worst.
Indeed.
But at this point, she is she doesn't have her passion for Karata anymore, since she's been demoted from queen and she has a soul-crushing real job. And you can see in her eyes she's kind of dead inside. Meanwhile, we have Kana, who's outside watching the match. It's very hot in this room. They made a point this whole episode of. And people outside were worried that the players were just going to pass out from heat stroke. There's condensation forming on the windows from the much less hot outside than inside the room. But we have Kana, who's very impressed with the voice of the reader and the connection she feels the reader has with the poetry. So you see her kind of developing into what the show seems to be going for with her from this point forward. And I imagine they're going to do more of that in the second season. But Chihaya's winning the match, and the leader of the society that Yumi's from, which is the same society Nishida and Kana and Tsutomu are part of, gets like pissed off and opens the window and starts yelling at Yumi to wake the fuck up, basically. And then she gets into full rules lawyer mode and beats Chihaya, because Chihaya didn't know about rules lawyers, because it's unsurprisingly frowned upon. But Yumi don't care. She's awful.
You see, the interesting thing I thought about this is, I guess they were trying to establish that in a lot of ways, this show is not show. The card game is more of an honor-based thing where each player is supposed to kind of trust that they're not trying to cheat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody like her is insisting that they got the card and they're not moving from that, I guess more of the politeness that's a standard thing in Japanese society would dictate that you would just sort of defer to that person. So I think that's what they were trying to establish with that.
Well, and that's annoying for everyone else, because everyone else has to wait on this argument.
Yeah, because they can't play while the noise is going.
Well, and they're all playing off the same reading. So they can't read until it dies down.
It's a real dick move.
Yeah. But we see, in general, that she plays dirty, and I really dislike this character. And I feel like that's maybe you're not supposed to completely dislike her, but I completely dislike her.
I think the reason that this character exists and why it was probably necessary for this character to exist is they were trying to, I guess, establish that there's even more layers to this game that we haven't seen yet. And this is kind of another strategy that, you know, even if it's frowned upon, it's still a legitimate strategy that can make people win games and stuff.
It's like spawn camping.
Hey, man, if you can't kill a camper, you don't deserve to play.
Camping is a dick thing, but it's a legitimate strategy. Don't you remember America's Army? Where they word filtered camping to strategy?
Yeah, that's actually really funny and good.
So let's get to episode 23. Chihaya's very, very upset by her loss, and she stuffs herself into a locker, which is an interesting reaction to have. Meanwhile, Pseudo's there, kind of taunting her because of their shaved head bet, and Harada comes in and is a very scary man, and takes on the bet, saying that he beats Pseudo, the bet's off. And Pseudo's like, but I'm not playing you next. And Harada says, yeah? Do you plan on losing next? You're going to play me sometime. So they eventually get to that match. And Taichi is trying to convince Chihaya to come out. And she eventually comes out and says she's not going out to watch the match for herself, but going so Taichi can watch, because they're going to be his rivals when he gets up there. So long story short, Harada defeats Pseudo. And this episode is actually a pretty good episode for one-liners, I thought.
It was?
There are some lines I thought were pretty funny. When Harada beats Pseudo, he just comes out. Pseudo comes out, and he's like, he has the anime blue lines down face, and he's like, he's not a man. That guy's just an intelligent gorilla. Or an intelligent bear.
I
thought it was funny.
If that's your idea of funny, I guess.
I thought it was funny.
It was okay.
So, and Harada loses in the semifinals, but I don't remember who it is that goes on. I don't think anyone notable goes on. I don't remember if the male finalist was notable. But Yamamoto wins the chance to be the Eastern challenger for the Queen match.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I was wondering about this, but it kind of seems like, you know, men and women can play against each other, but not in rank A. It seems like they divide up by gender in rank A.
I think it might not be for like this tournament. I think it might be for the qualifiers. They can't for the Master and Queen.
I have no idea. I just noticed that they.
But I think for regular tournaments they can, because I'm pretty sure that at some point in season 2, Chihaya and Arata play each other in a tournament, or Arata and the Queen. Somewhere, there's a boy-girl pairing in there somewhere.
Okay.
I just skimmed through the pictures for season 2, and I saw that in there. I just don't remember it.
So I guess if you're trying to qualify for queen or master, then that's why they divide them up by gender.
Yeah. So we go over to Arata now, over in Western Japan, and he loses in the 4th round. And then this episode, he is trying to convince his friend who quit to come back to Karta, because he quit because he's convinced that he can't play any higher level than he does. But Arata is having trouble finding people who can play at his level / who want to play him. But his friend is pretty steadfast in not wanting to play. He only wants to play for fun now. He doesn't want to try and hit the top. But after that, we see Yumi wins the challenge match, so she's going to go play Shinobu for the chance to dethrone her. And the end of the episode, there's a little montage of all the different classes have Christmas parties. And Chihaya kind of comes out of her shell a little bit, I guess, and meets other people in her class that are part of smaller clubs and are, I guess, inspired by the Karate Club doing so well in their first year, and despite being a small club, and they're telling her how we're the mountain climbing club, and because of you guys, we decided to start having tent assembly competition race things. So it's cool that you guys are doing this, even though you're kind of small and niche. So they all seem to be having fun, except for Taichi, I guess, who got tricked into having a group date. And then the end of the episode is Taichi gave Chihaya Arata's number at some point, so she calls him and can't talk, and he's just talking at her about whatever, and then he gives the line, "Cell phones are incredible," which is another line I got that I thought was amusing. Also, Tsutomu talked to some girls, and he was very excited about that.
If only I could do that one day.
Then we get to the last 2 episodes, which are all about the Master Queen match and the main characters watching it. So they're done. These guys are basically done for the season, our main characters.
Now, can I have a little rant about why characters watching something on TV is an incredibly lame way to end your TV show?
Go for it.
No, that was it.
That wasn't a rant. That was just you saying a sentence.
Yeah, but it was ranty enough for me.
It wasn't at
I don't like to belabor points. I'm not like this TV show. I don't like to belabor points. I just want to say that this is a bad way to end your TV show, and you shouldn't do it.
I can't think of any other point they could have stopped. I guess they could have stopped at the Christmas party phone call to episode 23, but
yeah, that would actually be a pretty good kind of book point, end point to the shows, because that kind of completes a dramatic arc if you think about it, and that would be perfect to just end the show there. But they got this extra one bit of the characters just watching a friggin' match on TV, and like, I probably, I don't like doing this normally, but if I was writing this show, I would have the characters actually be at the match. Like, that's how I would do it. Like, it's a small difference, but it's an important difference, I think.
Yeah, I guess the only purpose it served them watching a TV is that they were at Taichi's house, and we see that Taichi's mother may quite literally be the devil.
Yeah, but they've already gone over the fact that his mother does not like
anyone
her at all.
Yeah. But anyway, they're at Taichi's house watching the Master and Queen matches. And Shinobu, the current queen, comes out, and she has gained a little bit of weight, as Chihaya figures out it's because she ate a bunch of popsicles to win a contest. That's a lot of devotion to the ugly samurai snowman character.
You gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Also, it seems she doesn't realize that she's gotten heavier in this match, because for the first chunk of time, she's blaming her kimono for weighing her down. And at some point, she's like, "Oh, I ate all those popsicles, didn't I? I guess it's me that's slower."
She seems to be sort of a weirdly oblivious character to a lot of things.
Yeah, so they go into that in this episode. This is a backstory episode for her. She is a divorced child, and her mother took her to live with her grandmother. And her grandmother's requirement for them living there was that Shinobu learn to do something that she can better herself with, I guess, was a good way to put it. And so they go through a montage of her trying a bunch of stuff and not taking to it. But then she finds a set of karta in the attic or storage shed or wherever, and I guess falls in love with them. And we get another little segment showing how Japanese elementary school kids are little shits because they steal her cards and hide them all around the classroom.
The show definitely does a good job of showing how shitty kids can be.
Yeah. But instead of getting upset and crying or throwing a fit, she just kind of calmly spends into the evening, it looks like, finding all of them. And she sees the last one really high up. It just kind of falls into her hands, and she takes that to mean that the Karuta loves her as much as she loves the Karuta. But anyway, that's the story of her falling in love with Karuta, and she goes to society and becomes the queen. And this is Chihaya somehow sees that Shinobu has this connection with cards, and she realizes that she needs to get attached to the cards in the same way that Shinobu and Kana are, or not the same way, but like have similar feelings towards them. Those two do. But anyway, Shinobu beats Yumi and wins the match because she loves the cards. And then we get to the master match, and the Chihaya's making a bunch of noise, and Nishi tells her to be quiet because this is really important for the guys to watch. And that she should watch too, because even though she's trying to emulate Shinobu's style, she's much closer in style to the master. And then this episode ends with the commentator saying that normally there are only 7 one-syllable cards, but for the master he has 28 cards that he can get as on the first syllable. Thoughts?
Not really much to say about this episode, I suppose.
Okay. So this episode, this is the last episode, episode 25. They talk about Master Suo's 28 one-syllable cards for a little bit, and then we get to the master talking about the reader for this match, and how he also seems to have super hearing, which we learn is called game sense in Karuta. And through his superior game sense, he is somehow able to recognize the reader for this match's love for the Japanese language, and that's why he's able to get all these cards on the first syllable. I don't know the language well enough to know if this is like a thing or if this is just anime stuff, but
I don't know, but it kind of seems like this show does this sort of thing a lot, and I think the show is weirdly hand-wavy the way it's written. Like, they'll just bring up something like this and just expect you to accept it, and it's kind of weird.
That can be a thing for sports anime, especially some of the more outlandish ones. The ones not trying to play it 100% straight. Like some of them go into weird Dragon Ball territory.
Yeah, like it just seems like they're trying to be kind of poetic, I guess, and it just doesn't really work.
Maybe it's better in the comic, I don't know.
Maybe.
But we basically see the master cleaning up, and we get a montage of like every character we've met in the series thus far watching it. And then we see Arata there with the same card setup, trying to, I guess, play against the master on his own, but he realizes that he can't do it if he doesn't have strong opponents to play against for real. Apparently, playing card solitaire doesn't cut it.
But isn't that how the queen got to where she is?
She went to the society for a while.
It kind of seems like she does. She just has a trainer, but she doesn't actually play at a society.
I think she learned at the society.
Yeah, I don't know what the specifics are there, but it just looks like she just trains by herself and that's it.
Yeah, but she might have people she plays with, but doesn't play like at an organized thing. I don't know.
I think earlier in the series they actually showed that she just plays by herself, like with cards set up, and
she just does a shadow boxing thing.
Yeah, with like a tape playing, and she just plays by herself.
Maybe. They'll probably have something bad in the second season. I don't know.
Probably.
Anyway, the master wins, and during the match, Tsutomu's been taking notes, and when he heard that the master has 28 one-syllable cards, he spent a while figuring out which cards. He spent a while figuring out with relation to Chihaya, and he tells her that he figured out that she has about 20 one-syllable cards herself. So she's, I guess, kind of uplifted, or she's reignited. It's not the word, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
She has an epiphany of sorts?
I guess, yeah, sure. Let's go with that. That works. But meanwhile, Taichi is kind of distraught after watching the master because he realizes that he doesn't have that raw talent. So he calls Arata, because they're buds now, apparently. Or phone buddies, I think they said at some point. So Arata tells Taichi that his grandpa said, yeah, there are people who have talent and they're able to take cards that way, but there's plenty of ways to take cards on them through practice. You can beat people with talent by getting better yourself. The episode is starting to end at this point. Arata's friend who quit, inspired by the match, comes over and helps Arata train so that he can get to that level. We learn from Kana that her new dream is to become a certified reader, which we learned might have been episode 22, might have been all the way back there, that there are only 10 certified readers in the country, and they have a ranking system and competitions of their own. I forget who it is. It might have been Chihaya that tells her that she needs to be Class A to get there, and she says it in her own just kind of oblivious way. Like, oh, you're going to get Class A then, that's great. So Kana spends the rest of the episode kind of moping in the corner. We see Taichi starting to make practice swings to get better. And we get to the very end of the episode where we introduce the cliffhanger for the season, where there's a faculty meeting and the lady teacher's in there arguing for the Karate Club to keep their club room because they want to give it to the concert band because the Karate Club's small and doesn't need that much space. And she eventually kind of wins over. They give her the condition that they can keep the band room, or they can keep the storage room, but that they have to go somewhere else if they can't get at least 5 new members in the new year. And then that's the end of the season. She slips a note in the club room door that says, hey, I increased the budget, but also you have to get 5 new members. And Kana's very excited about the budget, and everyone else is freaking out about the new member requirement, and then the season ends. And we get a montage set to the ending music.
Which I skipped.
It's fine. So final thoughts on Chihayafuru.
That Taichi guy is still a dick.
He's getting better. He just wasn't that bad recently.
As if, man, like, the thing he does with Chihaya's phone about, like, having that, getting that number from that guy at the train station.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's like... That's like a massive, like just the biggest cunt move I've seen in the show, probably.
Yeah, that's a real big move.
Because it wasn't just mean, it was also controlling. Like,
yeah,
it's possessive and weird and creepy.
He's very jealous.
Yeah, don't do that shit, man.
Yeah, that's kind of bad.
And he just, like, I've been hammering on this point a lot, but he just, I mean, his character is developing, but he's still a little asshole.
High school kids are dumb, though.
That's true.
Some people learn to not be dumb. He seems to be starting to learn to not be as a dumb high school kid.
Yeah, but like if we go back to, our old comparison of, the kids on the slope, like one thing that show did really well is kind of demonstrate that teenagers do mean shit to each other just because they don't really understand like the world outside themselves very well, and they do that stuff because they're idiots, but the show doesn't really have a good way of showing that. It just shows people being like randomly just really mean for basically no reason.
Yeah, this probably would have been a better show to watch before Kids on the Slope, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I guess Taichi's character development and who he is as a person and how he behaves and stuff is kind of like that kind of summarizes my thoughts about the show as a whole, because the problems that he has as a character and the way that he's been characterized kind of extends to to the show as a whole. Like, it kind of weirdly thin character development and kind of hammering on the same points a lot and kind of spinning its wheels and the same kind of dramatic ideas brought up a lot and just not a lot of progress being made. And I think like the way that the Karate games took like over the show basically at a certain point. It's kind of a shame, and I don't think there's anybody on the show that I really like or feel attached to. I mean, Kana's a fine character, but I don't really care about her whole thing. Like, yeah, it makes sense that she'd want to be a reader, but I just don't really want to see that happen. I'm not really interested, you know.
I like her. From now, I'm going to be following her journey in the second season, and probably
Yeah,
through the
she's
comics.
probably one of the more likable characters. I just, don't really care enough to find out what happens with her, and I guess that kind of extends to most of the characters on the show.
I guess. Anyways, I like the show. I'm going to continue the second season at my own pace.
I think we should have, like, if you're going to keep watching that, and even when we move on to something, we should maybe have, like, a
check-in.
A Chihayafuru check-in every so often.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Because I'm curious if the show gets better, but I don't really kind of want to
find out yourself.
Slog through those episodes to find out, yeah. But, I should say that I did want to like this show, and it may not come up on the podcast, but I do want to like anything that I spend time on,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those people that likes to hate stuff, and I think reveling in that kind of, internet hatery is the best way I can think of it, because that seems to be a popular thing these days.
Uh-huh.
But I just don't indulge in that sort of thing. If I find myself not enjoying something, I just stop doing it, and I don't spend, time thinking about it and time ranting about it. I like to spend time on things that I love, and it's kind of a shame that this show didn't get added to that list, Like, I want to like anything I spend time on.
Yeah. From what I've heard, the second season is if you like the first season, you'll like the second one. If you did not like the first one, you probably will not like the second one.
Well, that's a shame.
I will find out for you, probably slowly, since we're going to be watching other stuff.
Well, I'm interested to hear.
So I think for did you ever read the summary of Monster that I sent you?
I don't think I did, actually. I just like coming into stuff blind, I suppose.
Let me try and find it. So it's about a Japanese brain surgeon working in Germany, and there has been a massacre somewhere nearby, and a couple twins get brought in, and one of them has been shot in the head, but it's operable. But the mayor also comes in and needs to be operated on, and if one lives, the other will die. And the doctor has to choose which one he picks, and it is going to have bad consequences for him either way. And then it goes into some dark conspiracy, psychological thriller shit from there. I don't want to summarize it too much beyond there, because I don't want to spoil it, because I think it's a legitimately good story.
Sounds interesting, I suppose. Kind of the triage element there of having to choose which patient to operate on is interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't come down to medical stuff too much in the later parts, I don't think. I've read the first couple volumes recently to just make sure that it's as good as I remember it being, but it still stays pretty high-level stuff from what I recall. This is a longer series. This is 74 episodes. And since I think is a bit of a denser thing, I think we should bring it down from 4 episodes, maybe to 2 or 3.
It kind of depends how it, I mean, I'll let you know whether or not I need more time to, go on at length about whatever's coming up, but it's just sort of a wait and see thing, I guess.
Let's, for the time being, say we're going to start at 3, and then we can adjust as we go. Because I think it might need a little bit more room to unfold in discussion. And I don't want summary to go super long for it.
I was kind of thinking, maybe even doing something a bit weirder, like, because, you had the issue with, I forget what the show's called, something about galaxies and heroes, whatever. What's that show called again?
Legend of
Galactic Heroes. Yeah, you had the issue of feeling like you're tied into a show that you really weren't enjoying at all. And,
the difference there was that we were all going in blind for that.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I've read all of this.
But I guess my idea is that maybe that, what's like the first 12, and if I really enjoy those, that's what the first episode will be about, and maybe it'll be a long one, but, and then if I'm liking what's going on a lot, then we just continue as normal from there.
So you want to do 1 episode on 12 episodes?
Yeah, I mean, but that's more like a preliminary, like toe dipping into the show, because I feel like 3 isn't really enough to get an idea whether or not it's something to commit ourselves to.
What about 5? I usually give a longer series a 5-episode test.
Bring it up to 6 and that's a deal.
Okay, we'll do a double length episode, or maybe I'll break it up.
Yeah, that could work actually.
And do two episodes in simultaneous release.
Yeah, then that could totally work.
This show does have an English dub that I've heard is pretty all right.
We can do the Kids on the Slope thing where we try both episodes.
Yeah, I have not heard that this one is laughably terrible like Kids on the Slope was.
God, that was so bad.
But before we do Monster, so that I can give Doder and any listeners time to get their hands on it, we're going to do a couple specials, maybe 2 or 3. I've gotten a bunch of suggestions from people about what we should watch for one of them. And I'm going to run a poll on that later. And I'll post on Twitter and the Facebook and the Something Awful thread and all that stuff about that. But the first one, I think we're just going to go for something like good and classic that you haven't seen. I think we're going to go for Princess Mononoke for the first special.
Okay.
That also has an English dub. It is a very good English dub. Sometimes I go back and forth over which one I'm going to watch when I watch that movie. They're both very good. There's a little bit of nuance lost in the dub, but not anything significant. And I'm not sure that the subs would reflect it either way.
I think I might just go for the dub then if it's good.
Yeah, they're both good. I'll probably end up watching the dub too, because I doubt I'll want to read. But since I'm going to have to read for all the Satoshi Kon movies that I need to get on watching. Which, this is a reminder for that. We will be recording that at the beginning of July, so it should be coming out in July. I'm not going to give a date. It will be before the end of July. Those movies are Perfect Blue, Paprika, Tokyo Godfathers, and God, what's the last one, Cat Doder?
Millennium Actress.
Millennium Actress. I recommend that people also watch his short final film, Ohio.
It's like a minute long or something.
Yeah, it's a minute long. And if you also want, there's a very good episode of Every Frame a Painting on Satoshi Kon's editing technique that I highly recommend. We will be doing this episode with GameSpot's Mary Kish, and I'm very excited about doing this. This has been a long time in the works. And if you want to hear her talk about the only Satoshi Kon thing we're not talking about, Paranoia Agent, we have the very first episode of the Horror Kiwi podcast way back from last October that you can listen to. I'm sorry about the audio quality for everyone except Mary. It sounds like I recorded in a toilet bowl. I'm actually going to try and remaster that one. But I think that's it. So, season 3 will be Monster. We're going to do 2 longer episodes. Or, no, we're going to do 2 3-episode episodes that will be released probably simultaneously. We'll see. Mary Kish podcast sometime in July. But next week is Studio Ghibli's Princess Mononoke Anime Kiwi special. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I think you'll enjoy it. If you have seen it, I hope you enjoy it, or else maybe skip this one if it's a movie you don't like, because don't consume things you don't like, man. Unless you really want to hear us talk about it.
That's one thing you take away from this podcast is don't spend mental effort on things you don't like.
Unless you really like us, I guess, in which case listen to us talk about it and just don't watch the movie. If you've seen it, you know what's going on anyways. But that's it. As always, if you want to get in contact with us, you can email us at Anime Kiwi. God damn it, right from the start, I've messed this shit up.
Awesome.
You can email us at anime@gamekiwi.net. You can catch us on Twitter at TheGameKiwi. On Facebook at facebook.com/TheGameKiwi, which has actually been getting a decent amount of traffic recently, surprisingly enough. What else is there? You can catch us on iTunes under PodKiwi, and that's our entire feed, and that will be getting other stuff besides anime in it in the nearest future, probably also in July. July is going to be a big month for Game Kiwi podcasts, I think. So be sure to subscribe and review and rate us there. I think that's the things you do on iTunes. And
you do lots of stuff on there.
Yeah. If that's how you're getting our podcast now, you can also reach us at podcast.gamekiwi.net, although that is going to be getting a minor overhaul sometime in the nearest future. So be sure to keep an eye on that too. We've got an affiliate podcast about MMORPGs coming up soon that we're going to be starting a kind of Pod Kiwi network type thing. So here's your exclusive for that. Breaking news.
I feel special.
And then lastly, we have our old standby, youtube.com/GameKiwi, which is getting almost a subscriber a day now at this point. We're actually growing at a steady rate somehow.
Yeah, it's a weird moment there where the channel just wasn't getting anybody new. It was weird.
And now it got like 10 in one day at some point in there. It's crazy. YouTube's weird. But you can get to us through all those things, and please do. We like hearing from you.
It's a good idea to make sure to subscribe to the actual YouTube channel because that has video stuff as well as the podcasts.
Yeah, we have a Yakuza LP that is on hiatus right now because of technical difficulties. I'm going to try and make it up with some stream content and more episodes of Will It Goku.
If your PS2 falling off a desk is technical difficulties, then yeah.
Yeah, it decided to commit suicide and just jumped off my desk for no reason. It was on there firmly. So yeah,
I kind of want to get that Vagrant Story thing going soon, but been dipping my toes back into that game and trying to think about what angle I'd approach it from.
Yeah, and if you want a second voice, I'll do it. I'll be your audience surrogate.
It's always a useful thing.
Yep. But that's all our stuff. Yeah, we like hearing from you. I've gotten more feedback than I expected about what to watch for our specials in the break between seasons. And like I said before, I will be running a poll with those suggestions. Please don't suggest K-On! The movie, because we're not watching that. Because fuck K-On!
Is it bad?
It is the most vapid, nothing slice of life show ever created.
Oh boy, that sounds like my personal hell.
Yeah, I hate it, so you for sure would hate it. Because I generally don't mind slice of life things. I think it's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I'll stay well clear of that then.
But anyways, that's all. This has been the final episode of Season 2 of Anime Kiwi. I'm Mike.
I'm Katsura.
Thanks for listening, and as always, keep it anime.